Well, the Chamber of Mines, they're saying it will seek an interdict to suspend the implementation of the new mining charter that was announced earlier by the Mining Minister, Mosebenzi Zwane.
The Chamber accuses the department of imposing a unilaterally developed charter on the industry and of negotiating in bad faith. It warns the charter in its current form will add to policy uncertainty in the industry and will further sink confidence.
Well, the charter brings sweeping changes to black ownership in the mining sector. Mining prospecting rights will be granted to companies with a minimum of 50% plus one black ownership. That's a veto right. It also requires 70% mining goods to be procured from black economic empowerment companies. It provides for new empowerment targets with respect to black representation in firms. A minimum of 50% black representation at board level will be required. 25% female representation at a board level.
Well, this is a story that certainly moved the markets today. So some backlash and reaction. And to discuss this issue further, we're now joined on the line by the Chamber of Mines Senior Executive for Public Affairs and Transformation, Mr. Tebelo Chabana. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the program. Your reaction to what happened this morning with the Mines Minister?
Good evening, Peter, and to the listeners. I mean, our reaction is that, this DMR mining charter that's been released is flawed. It is flawed in a number of respects. I mean, firstly, from a procedural and a substantive point of view. Procedurally, you will know that in the past, the mining charters were negotiated by a grouping of stakeholders in a forum called MIGDET. It was us, trade unions, government. These charters were negotiated, and what came out was a negotiated outcome. So that happened in the first one and the second one. In this instance, the DMR published a draft that nobody had been consulted with for draft last year. And yes, they've had consultation, but certainly not proper engagement or negotiation. And they've come out with a final document which we say is flawed. And it's clear that a lot of the input that we gave as a sector, the concerns that we raised, have not been taken on board. And even now, what we're seeing now is a document that's got very new elements that we weren't even consulted on, So you've got to question the bona fides of that discussion. And on the substantive side, there are lots of elements. I mean, look, this document was published today. We're still studying the details. But it's pretty clear that a lot of the things, the concerns that we had, not being resolved. For instance, the whole question of the once empowered, always empowered, which really means, will be past transactions that were done, 200 billion odd worth of transactions that were concluded in good faith according to the rules at the time, will they get full recognition? And it seems that, no, they're not going to get that full recognition on our first reading of this charter. So it's a big concern for us.
Okay.
And that is why we've said we're going to take the action of going with a declaratory order to resolve that ownership issue, interdicting the operation of the charter, i.e. to suspend it from coming into effect, and taking it on review.
All right. So are you saying that the minister is lying when he says that there was wide consultation?
No, Peter, I'm not saying that. The minister did consult. He did consult widely with different parties. But the problem is, now, after that wide consultation, they should have come back to say, well, this is what we have. Bring us all into the room and thrash it out. You wouldn't have lose, but you would have come out with a negotiated outcome. So unfortunately, what's happened is that they've gone and done their own consultation, and what's come out is a document that we, the implementers of this charter. Now remember, the mining industry is a critical stakeholder because they have to implement it. We are saying that this document is flawed.
Okay, so from the outside looking in, and for some of us who perhaps are not intimately involved or know much about the mining industry, they would say, look, a jump from 26 to 30% isn't a huge number. Why is that so difficult for the mining sector?
The ownership concern with us relates to past transactions, okay? In terms of what's proposed, this jump up, to 30%. Look, we still need to study it. But by being prescriptive on 8% here, and it makes it difficult to structure deals. But make no mistake, in terms of the ownership element, the primary concern by the mining sector relates to the DMR not recognizing past transactions. That's the big issue.
How have other sectors, industries dealt with this ownership, once empowered, always empowered?
I mean, they've dealt with them differently. You've got some where they allow some kind of recognition. But the important thing is you've got to look at mining circumstances. What were the rules at the time? You know, was there a provision for top-up later? No. So mining, the problem is that mining is one of those type of businesses that you've got to invest a huge amount of capital, long lead times, 10 years hence, only then will you get your profit. We're very different to a supermarket. We're very different to, any other manufacturing type of business where you can set up your business where you want to. We're very much constrained by the geography. You have to go to where the resources are. So when you sink a lot of money into this area, you've got to know what the rules are. And the rules at that time was that we could do our BE transactions, and that, after a certain period of time, the BE party could realize some value. There was no intention at that side to lock in black investors ad infinitum. But you've got to ask yourself, why would they invest if they were going to lock in ad infinitum and not be able to realize value?
Okay.
So the circumstances
I'm going to push you.
Were specific.
I'm going to push you because we don't have much time. But what do you see as the consequences of this charter in its current format?
Look, we think the consequences will be dire for the sector. I mean, you're further prolonging the uncertainty relating to ownership transactions. They are adding layers of costs in making this sector more uncompetitive. They're setting up structures, new bureaucracies, for instance, this NTDA, that's going to be taking up skills money and trying to do skills training, which the industry can do much better. If they've got a problem with how the sector is doing skills development, fix the MQA, which they are in charge of. Don't set up another bureaucracy that's going to involve other costs, you know what I mean? So there are a number of things that are problematic.
How's the relationship now between the Chamber of Mines and the Mineral Resources Minister? It seems if he's going off and doing his own things and you guys are getting caught by surprise and getting invited to announcements and seeing documents for the first time, it seems like you're not even talking to each other.
It is challenging, Peter. In the time that I've been in the sector, we've had 6 ministers now, so that doesn't help on the continuity side. And you've had a purging of skilled staff in that department, which also doesn't help. Now, I've been called to a MIGDET meeting, on short notice. We thought was very suspicious. Because remember, we had not negotiated this charter through MIGDET. We would have wanted to, but the MIGDET, this entity, this forum, had not discussed mining charter issue for 2 years. So how can you call the industry to a MIGDET meeting an hour before a press briefing? That's why we said it was just very suspicious.
All right, Mr. Thebelo Chabana, Senior Executive for Public Affairs and Transformation at the Chamber of Mines. Thank you very much indeed for your time. So now that's a story, I'm sure, that's going to be running for quite a while still, Francis.